Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums, and today I have a weekly check-in reading for the week of Sunday, April the 5th, which is today, and happy Easter for those that celebrate, all the way through, I'm assuming it'll be the 11th, so Saturday, April 11th. Let's get into it. Today I'm going to be using the Rosebud Tarot, so let's kind of see what we have in store as a collective and what we need to kind of keep in mind for this week. So I like to kind of flip it around and see if we get stuff. All right, so what do we need to know as a collective this week? We have the Sun reversed. All right, what do we need to do as a collective this week? We have the Curiosity of Fire, which is going to be the Page of Wands. What do we need to release as a collective? We have the Four of Water or the Four of Cups. And then finally, what do we need to contemplate as a collective this week? We have the Devil reversed. So a lot of reversals this week. And I hope you guys had a nice Libra full moon last week. And all right, let's kind of see what we need to kind of focus on for this week as a collective. So what do we need to know? We have the Sun reversed. Now, typically the Sun is all about finding the warmth, the joy, allowing ourselves to shine, allowing ourselves an opportunity to really connect to the things that allow us to feel like we can really show up as ourselves, like really understanding what it is that gives us life. With this being reversed and the energy being a little bit more introspective, I think that this week is going to be one where maybe we need to take into consideration what it is that we've been holding back on. Maybe we're not quite ready to kind of put ourselves out there in some ways. Maybe there's something that is not really allowing us to show up and be fully present in the ways that we would like. And so I think that the Sun reversed is kind of saying, maybe we need to look at ourselves and be a little bit more aware of what we have been holding back on, where we haven't really felt like it's okay for us to show up as ourselves fully or to really stand up and shine brightly the way that we would like. Now, I know the astrology this month is going to be a little bit more intense. Everyone that has, been talking about astrology for a while has been talking about April 2026 and how, this month is really going to gear up for some very intense astrological things happening. And the Sun is going to be, meeting up with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So there's going to be a little bit of like this sense of wanting to be a little bit more aware of where we've kept ourselves stuck, where we're maybe not seeing things quite so clearly, what that means about our self-identifying kind of energy in a lot of ways, especially if you have any Aries placements, if you basically any of like the cardinal signs, I feel are going to really feel this a little bit more strongly. And even like the fire signs may kind of feel like a little bit of this sense of like, I need to kind of do something about this energy. With the Sun being reversed this week, I feel like there is a little bit of this sense of really reevaluating a lot of different elements and aspects about what we're carrying, what we're doing, what makes us happy, if we actually have a sense of joy. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been really trying to kind of tune into different aspects of my own life and kind of trying to figure out like, am I actually happy with what I'm doing? Do I really enjoy how I'm doing it, what I'm doing it for, how I'm showing up? And so I've been making these different decisions to kind of open myself up to doing more of the things that allow me to feel like I can really truly shine in my own ways. But again, because this is reverse, there's a little of like this sense of like a hesitation to kind of get out there and really truly do things the way that I would like. So I think with this is that maybe this week may not feel like we're quite as prepared to kind of get out there and do things or to really shine in the ways that we would like. So I would definitely say maybe it's a week to be a little bit more cautious, especially with what we need to know. To be a little bit more cautious about how you're showing up in certain spaces, how you're presenting yourself, maybe not going so hard and so like full on into different things that feel like this is what I want to focus on. I'm not going to like pay attention to anything else. So it may not be quite the best time to kind of like be like, oh, I'm just going to like, fart around and just do what I want to do. It may be more of like tempering a little bit of that fire and kind of bringing it down and kind of scaling back on it in some ways. And just be aware that maybe this week is going to be one that like there's a lot of stuff that still needs a lot of your attention and maybe a little bit more of your focus. So with what we need to do, we have the Curiosity of Fire reverse. Now this is going to be the Page of Wands. To me, pages can be very much this like, I'm going to get out there and do it. I don't really know what I'm doing, but it's okay. There is like this sense of adventure and kind of pushing towards different things that feel more like exciting for you in some ways. Now, pages have a little bit of this sense of like a fool, right? Like the Fool card in tarot. There's this sense of like, I want to get out there. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I want to try something new. Fire, or the Wands suit, again, is going to be passion and drive and creativity. And I feel like there's this sense of wanting to kind of really go after the things that make you feel like present and alive in a lot of different ways, because there's this beautiful kind of spiritual inspiration that tends to come with the Wands. Now, having a Page of Wands, there's this Curiosity of Fire, is that sometimes we don't really understand how we can get burned, right? Or how we can get burned out. With this being reversed, I think that we need to kind of reflect on all of the things that we've been carrying and where we've been overextending ourselves or overburdening ourselves in some ways. If we look at the lessons from the 10 of Wands, there is a little bit of this sense of maybe we're not quite so ready to be out there and explore in a new way. So it's maybe not the best time to try to start something new or try to get out there and do something else. And as someone that literally just started something new at the beginning of the month, I have been kind of feeling this sense of like, okay, maybe I should have waited a little bit, but it is what it is. We're here and I'm going to try my best to do what I can. And I really feel the energy here where it's like, this is what we need to do. It's like, we need to be aware of not being so focused on, well, this will be fun, or this feels fun, or I'm going to just do this just because I can. The Curiosity of Fire reversed, I feel, is allowing us to look at, okay, what do we already have on our plates? What are we already carrying? And what is it that maybe we can kind of offload, especially if we just don't feel a strong sense of joy and warmth towards the things that we've been doing so far, so that we can kind of move into the next thing and kind of prepare ourselves for what comes next and what is up ahead. So I think that this is going to be a good week for us to reflect on, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What do we know about the things that we've been carrying? What sort of things are we ready to kind of confront and release that maybe don't make the most sense for what we're trying to do for ourselves as individuals? And be a little bit more prepared to say, you know what, I'm just not going to add something else to my plate because I already have so much going on. Now, what we need to release, we have the Four of Water, or the Four of Cups. Now, typically this is a card of like discontent and boredom and just kind of feeling unhappy in some way. It's almost like we're so focused on what hasn't worked out or what hasn't really come together that we tend to not see what else we still have at our disposal or what else is being presented to us. Now, water is cups, right? It's our intuition, our sense of feelings, our emotions, our relationships and connections. It is very much about like that kind of very much trusting the gut instinct. Fours are typically related to stability and stabilizing and kind of being very aware of like the foundation that we're building underneath ourselves. So this being what we need to release is that maybe we need to kind of let go of this sense of being not so happy with how things have been, and looking past the things that haven't really worked out the way that we thought they were going to, and really look at, well, what is being presented to us in lieu of the things that we've been missing, or in lieu of the things that we don't really have right now. I think with this being what we need to release is a sense of, I can't move forward until this happens, or I can't really focus on this until I'm able to release this sort of energy. So I think that this week is going to be one where we're having to kind of be realistic with ourselves as far as like, hey, I don't really like that this is happening, but this is like the reality of my life. And so I have to just, I don't want to say like just suck it up or whatever, but it does kind of feel a little bit of like this kind of energy of like, hey, we have to be very realistic with ourselves about where we are the ones that have kind of neglected to see where the opportunity lies, and the things that maybe haven't really worked out, or the things that haven't really gone the way that we wanted. So we're the ones that need to look at, how are we really truly feeling about the things that we have going on, and what can we do with that energy to kind of move forward. Now, with what we need to contemplate, we have the Devil reversed. Now, I know this is one of these cards that tends to kind of scare people in some ways, but I think that the Devil is really talking about where we have bound ourselves in particular ways that don't really serve us. And with it being reversed, and with what we need to contemplate, is that maybe we have been focusing a little too hard on trying to, not look at what needs to be in balance a little bit more. Because if we look at the lessons of Temperance, the card before, it's more of saying like, yeah, you're doing pretty good with like this balance thing, but there are things that are not always going to be so black or white, or make so much sense, or be so easy to keep in harmony. And I think with the Devil reversed, especially with what we need to contemplate, is that maybe some of us have been tying ourselves to, or attaching ourselves to, particular ways of being, expectations, or even limiting ourselves in certain ways because we have these beliefs that don't really make sense for what it is that we would like to accomplish and do in the long term. So I think the Devil reversed here is kind of saying like, hey, this is going to be a pivotal week where we have to kind of be more aware of different things that we have attached ourselves to, or tied ourselves down into, bound ourselves to basically, and look at where we need to kind of release ourselves from these different contracts, from these different things that don't really make that much sense for what it is that we're trying to do and how we're trying to live our lives. So this may be a great week to kind of review different things that have felt out of balance, out of whack, where you don't really allow yourself to really truly find warmth and joy in different things. Maybe it's not to say it's time to like quit something and then start something new. I think it's more of just, where have you kind of kept yourself limited and stuck, and not allowed yourself to really look at your own kind of personal, I don't want to say like addictions in the sense of like, oh, this is something that is like harmful, but more of, where are you thinking about certain things that have kind of kept you, again, kind of limited, kind of not allowing you to move past certain mental roadblocks, and, have kind of made you feel a little bit bound in some ways. And this is something that I really talked about in my Libra full moon ceremony, an energy guide with my little group of people, where I was kind of like, hey, this just feels very much like we're having to review contracts. We're having to review where we have felt bound, where we have felt kind of limited and stuck. in our, partnerships, relationships, our connections with others. And I think that this is, as a collective, a lot of us are really reconsidering a lot of these things within our connections and our relationships, because maybe it's just time for us to move on from relationships that feel very selfish to us as individuals. And that may just be something we need to kind of be aware of. So I think that this is going to be an interesting week, a lot of reversals. So I think it's going to be a very introspective week where we can really kind of take in a lot of this energy, where we may not feel like we're making a lot of external progress, but it is going to allow us to clear away some of like the emotional and energetic clutter that we've been hanging on to. We can look at things in a way that makes a little bit more sense for what it is that we would like in our lives. And I feel like that is a wonderful lesson for Aries season, is to really look at, who we are, our identity, what we are, and how we can kind of move into what it is that we're trying to do with that, understanding and that energy of really tuning into ourselves versus like looking so much like what everybody else wants. So I really hope that this reading brings you some clarity, that it allows you to feel a little bit more connected to the energy of this week. I want to say thank you so much for watching. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.